I'd be happy to, and I want to thank the gentleman, my colleague and friend from West Virginia, for his leadership in the Congressional Coal Caucus, to my colleagues from Pennsylvania and Ohio and all over the country representing coal-producing states where good people, men and women working in the coal mines, literally power America. They come from an industry, they work in the coal mines, they support the coal miners in an industry that provides affordable and reliable energy that powers the American economy, and it has been the backbone of the American economy. And instead of celebrating that industry, instead of applauding the heroic work that these men and women do day in and day out, underground, above ground, what is the response of the federal government over the last 6 years? It has been to singularly punish this industry. And I can't think of an administration from either party in the history of the United States that has singled out a single industry with the level of vindictiveness, frankly, and targeted a single industry and literally bankrupted many of these companies. And I don't understand it for a variety of reasons, but let me just share with you a little bit about the coal industry in Kentucky. We could very well be the poster child for demonstrating the tremendous negative impact and the consequences of this heartless, aggressive anti-coal policy from the EPA and from this administration's regulatory policy. Since 2009, the Commonwealth of Kentucky has lost more than 8,000 coal mining jobs throughout our state. And for every one coal mining job, 3 additional jobs are directly tied to every coal mining jobs. And this is a direct result of the administration's war on coal. Sure, there's competitive pressures from natural gas, and we celebrate the fracking boom and the result of discoveries in natural gas. But I can tell you what the coal industry says. It's not cheap natural gas that is the cause of these lost jobs. It's the fact that the federal government has put its heavy hand of regulatory power on the scales to make this industry non-competitive. Just to give you a sample of the problem, in the first quarter of 2015 alone, Kentucky's coal employment numbers dropped another 10.5%. So what does that mean in total? Coal production in Kentucky has decreased to its lowest level since 1963. In 2015, production levels are currently half of what they were just 2 decades ago. Yet demand for energy in the United States has steadily increased. But there's more than statistics, Mr. Speaker, when we come to talking about the face of the war on coal. And many of my colleagues have shared these stories about what this really means, what all of these regulations really mean in the real world. It's not statistics on a page. It's not about coal production percentages on decline. What it's really about, it's about Sally, the young woman in Wolfe County, Kentucky that I met with tears in her eyes at the end of a town hall meeting. And she came up to me as her congressman and she said, "Do they know what they're doing to our family? My husband lost his job because the coal mining employer that he works for didn't get a permit. And so now he's out of work. Don't those people in Washington understand that I've got kids? We're going back to school. It's August, and I can't afford shoes for my kids. And so I had to go to Walmart and buy them flip-flops just so they wouldn't be embarrassed to go back to school." Now, I want the regulators in Washington, D.C. to come back to Kentucky, to eastern Kentucky, and meet Sally and look Sally in the eye and ask her to describe to them what the impact of this war on coal is for her. Or what about Robert? Robert, the coal miner from Wolfe County, Kentucky, in my district, who gets up at 3 a.m. every morning to commute an hour to work, to go to work in the coal mines just to put food on the table. Or James, who looks at me with an incredible expression and says, "Andy, don't they understand what they're doing? They're putting people out of work. They're making life harder on the American people. Surely these are the people who say they're fighting for the working man. I'm the working man. Congressman, what are they thinking?" And then you talk about Chris, who says, "Congressman, I don't know much about politics. I don't really care much about politics. But if you can go save my job, I'm for you." Can't the politicians in Washington fight for people just to go to work and and provide for their families. These are paychecks that these people depend on. And finally, it's Curtis. Curtis, who said to me that his father crawled on his belly for decades to take care of his family. And because of his father's hard work, he had opportunities. This is more than statistics. This is about real people who have been victimized by bureaucrats in Washington who are out of touch. And if the bureaucrats in Washington would at least just go to these places, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and look these people in the eye and ask them what they think about their policies. And worst of all, it's all done in the name of the environment. We all love the environment. These coal miners love the environment. They come from a beautiful part of the country in Appalachia. It's not about not wanting to help the environment or environmental stewardship. But what's so sad is that these aren't going to do a darn thing about global carbon emissions. The clean power plant rule that this administration has proposed would reduce global carbon emissions by less than 1%. And for what? $8 billion in additional annual cost to our economy and thousands of American families without paychecks. This is wrong. The Congress of the United States is right to stand up for these families. The Congress of the United States is right to stand up for jobs. And that's why I support all of the legislative work done by this House, by these good members, the STREAM Act from my colleague and friend from West Virginia, the coal residuals bill that the chairman, has championed and done a great job in supporting, my colleague Ed Whitfield, the chairman of the Energy Subcommittee on the Ratepayer Protection Act, the RAINS Act, which we just voted for and passed out of this House, which would stop all of these costly regulations. Mr. Speaker, it is time for us to stand up for American jobs, for American energy, and for American-produced coal power. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman and thank you for his leadership.
No, thank you. Thank you for your